My name is Terry J. Ewing. I'm 28 years old, a software developer, and until that night, I believed I had built something real with someone who truly saw me. I had just gotten home from the hardware store, a small bag of drywall anchors in my hand. The guest bedroom still needed work. The house wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I bought it at 21 with money I had saved since I was 14. Every inch of it meant something. Ryan Mitchell used to say that was one of the things he admired most about me, that I was steady, grounded, real. I believed him. I set the bag down on the counter and glanced toward the living room. Laughter spilled out into the hallway, loud and loose, the kind that only comes after hours of drinking. Ryan had invited a few of his friends over, Paige, Kendall, Britt, and Simone. I had helped set everything up earlier. Ordered food, arranged drinks, made sure the apartment felt warm and inviting. That's who I was. I paid attention. I cared about the details. Around 10, I slipped into the bedroom to finish some work. A client issue urgent but manageable. I sat at my laptop, fingers moving automatically across the keyboard. At first, I didn't pay attention to the noise outside, but then I heard my name. She's nice and all. Ryan's voice. I froze. My fingers hovered above the keys. My breath caught somewhere between my chest and my throat. Yeah, but sometimes I wonder if I settled. The words didn't land all at once. They seeped in slowly, like something poisonous. Paige laughed. You did not just say that. I'm serious, Ryan said. His voice slurred, but clear enough to slice through me. Like she's comfortable, stable, but is that enough? My heart started pounding. Britt chimed in. Look at what everyone else is doing. My boyfriend just bought me a car. Kendall's fiancé is opening his own firm, someone added. And what's Terry doing? Ryan continued. The same thing she was doing when we met. Each word felt heavier than the last. I stared at the screen, but I couldn't see anything anymore. I don't know, he went on. She doesn't push herself, doesn't want more, just sits in her little developer bubble, perfectly happy being mediocre. The room went quiet for a moment, then softer, almost like a confession he didn't realize he was making. I could do better. I know I could. She's inferior. Something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a foundation giving way beneath a house that looked perfectly fine from the outside. 2 years. 2 years of believing we were building something together. 2 years of thinking he respected me. 2 years of love, or what I thought was love. I saved my work, closed the laptop. My movements felt distant, like I was watching someone else inside my own body. I walked to the closet and reached up to the top shelf. The wrapped box was still there. Silver paper, red ribbon. I had tied it that morning carefully, making sure it looked just right. The vintage camera he once picked up in an antique shop. The way his eyes lit up when he held it. The way he smiled. I remembered everything because that's who I was. I picked up the box and held it for a moment. Then I grabbed my coat, my keys, my wallet. When I stepped into the living room, everything blurred together, faces, laughter, glasses clinking. Ryan looked up mid-laugh. Terry, where are you going? I didn't answer, didn't look at him, didn't trust myself to speak. I just kept walking. Terry, it's almost midnight, what's wrong? The door opened. Cold air rushed in, and just like that, I was outside. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping, someone calling my name, but it all sounded distant, muted, like it belonged to another life. I got into my car and set the gift on the passenger seat. For a second, I just sat there, staring at it. Then I started the engine. I drove across town to my sister Caroline's place. She opened the door in her pajamas, took one look at my face, and didn't ask a single question. She just stepped aside. I slept on her couch that night, the camera still wrapped beside me, like a promise that no longer had a place to go. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and more than 30 texts from Ryan. I ignored all of them. Around noon, my phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't him. It was Kendall. Terry? I don't know what happened, but Ryan's been crying since you left. He won't tell us what went wrong. He just keeps saying he ruined everything. What did you do? I stared at the message for a long time, feeling something cold settle deeper inside me. What did I do? I typed back. I didn't do anything, I just left. Kendall replied almost instantly. He thinks you're breaking up with him. Are you? I locked the phone and set it face down on Caroline's coffee table. By evening, Ryan showed up at Caroline's apartment. I didn't know how he found me. Maybe he had called my family. Maybe he guessed. Caroline opened the door, and I heard his voice before I saw him, desperate raw. Is she here? Please, I need to talk to her. Caroline glanced back at me from the doorway. I shook my head at first, but then Ryan called my name again, and something in me hardened. Not enough to forgive him, just enough to stop hiding. I stood up and walked toward the door. He looked terrible. His eyes were red, his face drawn, his hair a mess, like he had been dragging his hands through it all day. He looked smaller than usual, stripped of the easy confidence he wore around other people. Terry, thank God. What is going on? You just left. You won't answer my calls. Did something happen? For 1 second, I just stared at him. Then I asked, You really don't remember? He blinked. Remember what? We were just having drinks. You were working in the bedroom, then you came out and walked out without saying a word. I've been losing my mind. You told your friends I was inferior. The color drained from his face so fast, it was almost frightening. You said you settled for me. You said I was mediocre. You said you could do better. His mouth parted, but no sound came out. You compared me to their partners, like I was some embarrassing placeholder in your life, and you said all of it while I was in the next room listening. Ryan's hand rose to his mouth. Oh my God! His voice cracked on the last word. Terry, no. I heard every word. I was drunk. That's the thing about being drunk, I said, and my voice came out flatter than I felt. It doesn't create a different person. It removes the filter. You meant it. You just never expected me to hear it. Tears filled his eyes instantly. I don't think you're inferior. I don't. I swear to you I don't. Then why say it I don't know? I was caught up in the conversation. Everyone was talking. I was trying to… He stopped shaking his head like the answer disgusted him. I was trying to sound like I belonged in that moment. I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. So humiliating me made you feel like you belonged. No. He looked wrecked now, completely unraveled. No, that's not what I meant. Terry, please. I said something cruel and ugly and stupid, but it isn't what I really believe. Sorry you said it, or sorry I heard it. He flinched. Both. God, both. I know I hurt you. You didn't just hurt me. Gee! You changed something. I could feel Caroline standing a few feet away, silent, giving me room, without leaving me alone. For 2 years, I thought we were building a life together. I thought you respected me, but all this time you were keeping score, measuring me against other people's boyfriends, deciding whether I was enough. I wasn't. His voice broke. Or maybe I was, and I didn't even realize it. I don't know. But hearing it back now, hearing what I said, I hate it. I hate myself for it. He wiped at his face, but the tears kept coming. Terry, please, tell me what to do. That question should have moved me. Maybe part of me wanted it to, but the wound was too fresh. The words were still alive inside me, still echoing. Leave, I said quietly. I need time to think. How much time I don't know. Please don't end this like this. You ended something last night, I said. I'm just the one who heard it happen. He stood there for a long moment, breathing hard, crying openly now, like he still couldn't believe the damage had come from his own mouth. Then he nodded once, barely. Okay. He turned and walked away, and I watched him go down the hallway without looking back. When the door closed, I felt my knees weaken. Caroline stepped in immediately, guiding me back toward the couch. I sat down and stared at nothing. 3 days passed. Christmas Eve came and went, then Christmas morning. My phone filled with messages from Ryan, from his friends, from my mother, who had apparently spoken to him while he was crying. Everyone wanted me to give him a chance to explain. Everyone said he loved me. Everyone said he was devastated. But devastation, after being caught, was not the same thing as respect before the damage was done. I kept replaying the sound of his voice in my head, casual, loose, certain, like what he said had been sitting inside him for a long time. On Christmas afternoon, Caroline handed me a mug of coffee and sat across from me. You planning to stay here forever? She asked gently. I'm not hiding, I said. I'm thinking. Thinking and bleeding can look the same from the outside. I didn't answer. She leaned back in her chair. I'm not telling you to forgive him. What he said was cruel. But if you need the truth, not the panic version, you may have to talk to him again when he's had time to sit in what he did. I looked down at the coffee in my hands. The wrapped camera was still sitting on Caroline's bookshelf, untouched, still waiting for a version of Christmas that no longer existed. That evening, I finally texted Ryan. We need to talk, really talk. No apologies. No excuses. I need the truth. He replied in seconds. Yes, anytime, anywhere. I stared at the screen a moment before typing the place and time. A coffee shop on Brennan Street, 700 neutral ground. One last chance for honesty, even if honesty broke what was left of us for good. I arrived at the coffee shop early. I chose a table in the back corner, away from the windows, away from the holiday crowds that still lingered even after Christmas. The air smelled like roasted beans and sugar, warm and comforting in a way that felt completely disconnected from the storm inside me. At exactly 7, Ryan walked in. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. There were dark circles under his eyes, his shoulders slightly hunched like he was carrying something too heavy to set down. When he saw me, he hesitated for half a second, then walked over slowly and sat across from me. Neither of us spoke right away. The silence stretched thick and fragile. Tell me the truth, I said finally. Not what you think I want to hear. The actual truth. Do you think I'm inferior? He inhaled sharply, like the word itself hurt to hear out loud. No, he said I don't, but I understand why you believe I do. That's not what I asked. He nodded, swallowing hard. No, I don't think you're inferior. Then why did you say it? He looked down at his hands, fingers tightening together. For a moment, I thought he might avoid the question, but then he exhaled slowly. Because I felt small. I didn't react, I just watched him. My friends were talking about their relationships, he continued. Big things, expensive gifts, promotions, trips, and I started comparing. Not you, me. I started feeling like I wasn't enough in that room, like I didn't measure up. I leaned back slightly, my arms crossing without thinking. So you made me smaller to feel bigger. His eyes snapped up to mine. I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, I guess that's exactly what I did. The honesty hit harder than any excuse could have. And you've never thought that before, I pressed. No, he said quickly. Then he stopped himself. Not like that, not in the way it came out that night. Terry, when I'm with you, when it's just us, I don't feel like anything is missing. You're steady. You listen. You remember things no one else does. You make everything feel grounded. Grounded? I repeated quietly. You called it mediocre. I was wrong. His voice broke slightly. I twisted something good into something ugly because I was insecure. I wanted to believe him. Part of me did, but another part of me couldn't unhear the ease in his voice that night, the way the words had come out like they belonged there. I bought you something for Christmas, I said. His expression flickered with something like hope, then confusion. I spent weeks finding it. It was supposed to mean something. Terry. But here's the thing, I continued, cutting him off gently. I picked that gift because I pay attention, because I remember the small things, because I care about what matters to you. My voice stayed calm, but I could feel something tightening inside me. And none of that mattered when you were sitting there with your friends. In that moment, I wasn't the person who knows you. I was just the person who didn't impress you enough. I know, he whispered. I know, and I hate that I made you feel that way. Feel? I shook my head slightly. That's not just a feeling, Ryan. That's what you said. We sat in silence for a moment, the noise of the coffee shop filling the space between us. Are those words unforgivable? He asked quietly. I met his eyes. I don't know. That was the most honest answer I had. I've been thinking about what you said, he continued, about drunk words being honest, and I kept asking myself if that means that's what I really believe. And the answer is no. What I believe is that I let my worst insecurity speak for me. And what happens the next time you feel small? I asked. The next time you're in a room where everyone is comparing lives and you feel like you don't measure up. He didn't answer right away. I don't know, he admitted finally, but I want to learn how not to hurt you when I do. The honesty was raw, unpolished, real, and that made it harder. Because real things don't come with easy endings. I can't just move past this, I said after a long pause. Even if I believe you're sorry, even if I believe you don't think those things most of the time you said them, and now I know you're capable of thinking them even for a moment. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. So what are you saying? He asked. I'm saying I need space. Real space, not a few days, maybe weeks, maybe longer. I need to figure out if I can trust you again. His eyes filled, but he didn't argue. Okay, he said softly, however long you need. I stood up slowly, grabbing my coat. I hope you figure out what you actually want, I said. Not what your friends have what you want. I want you, he said immediately. I paused for a second. Then prove it, I replied. Not to me, to yourself. I walked out of the coffee shop without looking back, and 2 weeks into January, I moved back into the apartment. Ryan had been staying with Paige. We had agreed to separate for now. He would move his things out by the end of the month. The apartment felt different, quieter, like something essential had been removed from the air. I was in the kitchen packing up dishes when my phone rang. It was Simone. I hesitated before answering. Hey, I said. Terry, do you have a minute? Her voice sounded careful, like she was stepping into something delicate. Yeah. I need to tell you something about that night. My grip tightened on the phone. What about it? There was a pause on the other end. Ryan didn't start that conversation. I frowned slightly. What do you mean Paige did? Simone said. She was talking about how her boyfriend bought her a new car, making it sound like that's what love looks like. And then she turned to Ryan and said, What has Terry done for you lately? Like it was some kind of challenge. I went still, and Ryan tried to brush it off. At first, she continued. He said you were amazing, that you'd been planning something special for Christmas, but Paige kept pushing. Britt and Kendall joined in. It turned into this whole competition about money status, who has the better partner. My chest tightened. I'm not excusing what he said, Simone added quickly. He said awful things, but he didn't walk into that conversation thinking that way. He was pushed into it. Why are you telling me this? I asked quietly. Because I've been watching him these past 2 weeks, she said. And he's not just sad, he's wrecked. And I think he needs to understand why he let himself get pulled into something like that. And maybe you deserve to know that it wasn't as simple as it sounded. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. The information didn't erase what I heard, but it changed the shape of it. It added something uncomfortable context. I sat in the quiet kitchen long after the call ended, Simone's words looping in my head. It didn't erase anything Ryan had said. It didn't soften the sting of hearing him call me inferior, but it shifted something. It forced me to look at that night from a different angle, one I hadn't allowed myself to consider before. Not forgiveness, not even close, but perspective. A few days later, Ryan came by the apartment to pick up more of his things. He looked different, not just tired this time, quieter, like something inside him had settled into place, even if it wasn't comfortable. He didn't try to hug me, didn't step too close, just nodded once when he walked in. I'll be quick, he said. I watched him for a moment, then asked, Did Paige start that conversation? He froze. For a second, I saw something flicker across his face, surprise, then realization. Simone told you? Yeah. He set the box he was holding down slowly. She did. Why didn't you tell me? Because it doesn't excuse what I said, he replied immediately. I still said it. I studied him carefully. That's not what I asked. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Because I didn't want it to sound like I was blaming someone else. I wasn't forced to say those things, I chose to. The honesty was steady, grounded, different from before. I've been thinking a lot about my friends, he continued. About why I let myself get pulled into that kind of conversation. Why I care so much about what they think. And I don't like the answer. He let out a small, humorless laugh. I've been chasing approval from people who don't even respect the kind of life I actually want. I crossed my arms, leaning against the counter. And what life is that? He looked at me, then really looked at me. Something real, he said. Something steady. Something that doesn't need to be flashy to mean something. The words hit differently now because they weren't said casually. They were chosen. And your friends, I asked. I'm not seeing them anymore. That caught me off guard. Any of them. He shook his head. No, not Paige, not Britt, not Kendall. What about Simone? She's the only one who didn't push it, he said. She actually tried to stop it. Silence settled between us again, but it wasn't as sharp as before. I'm not ready to get back together, I said finally. He nodded immediately. I know, but I hesitated for a second. I'm willing to try something smaller. His eyes lifted slightly. Coffee, I said. Once a week, no expectations, just see what's still there if anything. For a moment, he just stared at me like he wasn't sure he heard correctly. Really? Really, I said. But this isn't a reset. It's not us going back to how things were. I wouldn't want that, he said quietly. Not after what I did. Good, I replied, because what we had before wasn't as solid as I thought it was. He nodded again. Thank you. he said, his voice low. I didn't respond because this wasn't about gratitude. It was about possibility. He moved out at the end of January. The apartment felt emptier after that, but not in a way that crushed me, more like space that hadn't been there before. We met for coffee the following week, then again the week after. At first, everything felt careful, measured, like we were both learning a new language. We used to speak fluently. We avoided certain topics, circled others, but slowly something began to rebuild. Not what we had before that version was gone, but something else, something more intentional, more honest. By March, we were seeing each other regularly again. Not officially, not yet, but it was clear we weren't just two people meeting for coffee anymore. One afternoon, almost hesitantly, like he wasn't sure how I would react. I needed to understand why I did that, he said. Why I let other people define what matters to me. I didn't say much, but I noticed. I noticed the way he listened more, the way he paused before speaking, the way he didn't rush to fill silence anymore. And I noticed something else too. He wasn't trying to impress me. He was just showing up. And by April, we were officially together again. It wasn't dramatic, no grand gestures, no declarations, just a quiet conversation that ended with both of us understanding that we were choosing to try again. One Saturday, we were walking through a flea market. The air was warm, the sunlight soft, the kind of day that didn't ask for anything except to be experienced. Ryan stopped at a small booth filled with old photographs. He picked one up, a black and white image of a couple dancing in the rain. He smiled. "This is beautiful," he said. I watched him for a moment, then I bought it. Not because I needed to prove anything, not because I was trying to recreate what had been broken, but because it mattered to him, and that still mattered to me. That night, we sat in his new apartment. The photograph hung on the wall, a quiet reminder of something simple, something real. "Thank you for giving me another chance," he said softly. I shook my head. "You gave yourself another chance," I replied. "I just decided to see if you meant it." He didn't argue. He just leaned back, exhaling slowly. And for the first time in months, it felt right, not perfect, not healed, but real. So we're still together now, almost a year after that Christmas Eve. We're different, stronger in ways that matter. The scar is still there. I don't think it will ever fully disappear. I hint his insecurities. They didn't magically vanish either. But he works on them every day, and I see it. I feel it. We're not the couple we used to be, and maybe that's the point. Because sometimes what breaks you is the only thing that forces you to rebuild something better.